These are my 18 golden rules for fat loss following a lower carb or keto diet. For over 10 years, I followed a ketogenic protocol. Just in the last couple of years have I started cycling off of it. And that's simply because I'm at my goal weight and I can utilize carbs where I need them. But let's go ahead and dive in to learn what I've learned so that you can get the maximum amount of fat loss with your lower carb protocol. Number one is going to be paying attention to micronutrients. It is definitely a huge reason why people fail. It is a tremendous reason why people fall off. They start out, they feel great because they drop weight in the first week or two, sometimes even the first month or two. And then they start to feel cruddy. They get fatigued and they're saying, oh, this isn't working, I need carbohydrates. That's not what's typically going on. Typically what's going on there is you are eating such a diet that's just void of nutrition because you're skipping the leafy greens, you're skipping the vegetables, you're skipping the occasional fruit, you're skipping the occasional organ meat that has a lot of nutrition in it, and you're living off of meat and cheese and saturated fat. Just pay attention to those little nutrients that matter because they sincerely do matter. Number two, protein over fat. Protein is going to be the most important thing that you pay attention to. And people that are proponents of the ketogenic diet will tell you that fat is what matters because fat burns fat. That is not the case, has never been the case. Fat will start to condition your body to know how to use fat, but that doesn't mean that when you eat fat, you're magically going to burn more. What you need to do is prioritize protein above all else and let the chips land where they may when it comes to fat. Let me say that again. Prioritize protein, even if it kicks you out of keto, and let the chips fall where they may when it comes to fat. Typically, if you're eating enough meat, you're gonna start getting fats in. And the fats that you should be getting should be coming in from things like avocados and olives and macadamia nuts and olive oil and things like that. Number three, exercise becomes potentially more effective on a ketogenic diet. Why is that? Well, because you're conditioning your body to be in a little bit more of that beta oxidative state, which means as a percentage of fuel, when you exercise, you're likely burning more fat. Now, it's not this monumental amount, but my point in saying this is that exercise is still going to be the king. It is still going to be the grandmaster funk of fat loss. And on keto, it only becomes more powerful. Full disclaimer, I would highly recommend a product called Seed if you're looking for a probiotic. It's not the takeaway from this video, don't get me wrong. I just thought I'd mention it because people always ask me what probiotic I recommend. So I put a link down below that saves you 25% off Seed's Daily Synbiotic, which is a prebiotic and a probiotic in one. You've seen me talk about it before, a capsule inside of a capsule. So really cool multi-stage delivery, fascinating research behind it. I just really stand behind it. It's the one that I personally use, and that is the honest truth. I don't use a lot of supplements, but probiotics are one that I do throw into the mix now and then, and I do use Seed. So that link is down below, 25% off. Highly, highly recommend it, especially if you're making a dietary change. So whenever you make a change, it's important to help remodel the gut microbiome by adding in a good probiotic. And most probiotics, in my opinion, are garbage. So that link down below for a good one. Number four, fruit is okay in small amounts. Mainly berries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, blueberries. Don't go crazy on them, but honestly, I realized a couple of years ago, and I know I was pretty lean and I was active, but I could get away with a couple of cups of fruit and not even get kicked out of ketosis. And there's another rule that we're going to talk about as we get further on that will help kind of shed some light on this more. But the bottom line is the antioxidants, the polyphenols, the fiber, and just the overall vitamins and minerals that you get from some berries are probably only going to help you. My general rule of thumb is if you exercise, 1 cup a day is going to be fine. If you exercise twice a day, 2 cups a day is going to be fine. So I usually figure, okay, add about 1 cup of fruit per 45 minutes or so of exercise. Number 5, walking becomes your best friend, especially on keto. Walking is a beta oxidation movement. It's low intensity. We're talking zone 1, zone 2, which means you're utilizing fats for the most part. This is phenomenal on a ketogenic diet because this is the time that you're going to mobilize those fats. Remember, keto is already helping you mobilize fats. Walking is going to help you oxidize them. Mobilizing fats is no good if you're not actually going to burn them and oxidize them. So you're already mobilizing them with keto. Go for a walk and oxidize them. Those lower intensity movements become your best friend. Number 6, go easy on those mixed nuts. Okay, it's not that the nuts are bad. It's that when you just indulge in the mixed nuts, the cashews, the Brazil nuts, the almonds, you're getting a lot of polyunsaturated fats. And the jury is still out on whether or not high amounts of those are going to be good on a ketogenic diet. But that's not even the biggest concern. I don't worry about that so much as a handful of nuts, big handful, having like 3, 4, sometimes 500 calories. That's the reason I like macadamia nuts, is you can just kind of have a few big ones and they satisfy you. But you go for those big handfuls of mixed nuts, those are fat loss destroyers. They truly are. They're things that sneak up on you and they absolutely can abolish your overall fat loss goals. Number 7, antioxidants are your friend. The ketogenic state is naturally going to be an oxidative stressor. It is stressful on your body, which is one of the reasons why catecholamines, like stress hormones, increase a little bit and you burn some fat. It's beneficial on one hand, but you also want to help your body out. So I recommend a lot of green tea. I recommend taking vitamin C. I recommend taking echinacea, quercetin, things that have antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties. Also, astaxanthin is a very good one when you're following a ketogenic protocol. Trust me, they do help your joints feel a little bit better. Sometimes people will explain that they start to get joint stiffness on a ketogenic diet. A lot of times that's a dehydration issue, but I've found that astaxanthin and overall antioxidants have tremendously helped with that for me. Number 8, a 12-hour eating gap is going to be your best friend. You do not have to intermittent fast, but I highly recommend, if you're doing low carb, that you stop eating at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. and don't start eating again until 12 hours later. Give yourself a 12-hour fast. It is amazing when you look at the literature what happens to fasting insulin levels, HbA1c, and a number of other markers associated with metabolic health when people just take a little bit longer break from food. Not to mention, that's less time that you have to overeat during your actual eating period. So you're not fasting, you're just consolidating 12 and 12. And remember, you're mobilizing fat. So the longer you can go without food, potentially the more you can burn of it. Number 9, occasional breaks with carbohydrates are actually going to do you good. This was huge for me with fat loss because I realized that for a long time, I was losing some of my anaerobic performance, not because I wasn't feeding myself carbs, but because my body was forgetting how to be fueled by carbohydrates during my higher intensity workouts, and my workouts were starting to come down. But what I found is that every month or so, sometimes every 2 months, I would just go off keto for like a week, and I'd implement some more carbohydrates in, specifically surrounding my workouts. What this did for me is it helped my glucose tolerance. Losing glucose tolerance is a real thing. If you don't use it, you lose it. So if you stop feeding carbohydrates and stop doing high intensity work, you start to lose sort of that anaerobic glycolysis efficiency, and you need to kind of rekindle it. So what I recommend is take a week off, but keep the carbs clean. Go higher amounts of fruit, go higher amounts of butternut squash and sweet potatoes. Don't go crazy, just be smart. Number 10 was probably the biggest overall game changer, technical tip that I learned about halfway through doing keto. Okay, and that was alternating high fat days and low fat days once you get to a plateau. Now, why do I say this? Well, high fat days are fine because you're giving your body the nutrition that it needs, and you need to keep your calories high enough to maintain basal metabolic rate where you want it. But occasionally you need to drop the fats down. Your body doesn't just want to take the fat that you consume and turn it into fuel. It actually has to metabolize it. It has to go through all these different bile salt issues. It has to go through the portal vein, liver, yada, yada, yada. Your body typically mobilizes triglycerides, releases the free fatty acids, mobilizes those, and then oxidizes those. Okay, that means that when you burn fat, you're burning it from your stores, not just from what you're eating. So occasionally dropping your dietary fat down allows you to tap into those stores. Also puts you in a caloric deficit, which of course makes sense. So high fat, low fat, high fat, low fat. Whatever order you want to do it doesn't matter to me. Just occasionally stagger them, and trust me, it's huge. Number 11, water burns calories. There are varying bodies of evidence that suggest that even drinking like a half a liter of water can burn anywhere from 20 to 40 calories, depending on the temperature, depending on your level of hydration already, but also depending on the saline content. There are even some studies that demonstrate that because of the gradient, basically between isotonic states and non-isotonic water, basically like the saline gradient essentially, it takes energy for the body to take that water that doesn't have salt in and kind of get it into your system. They saw this in studies where they actually added saline versus non-saline. Anyhow, my point is this: water demonstrates to have some effect when it comes down to increasing metabolism temporarily, but also studies demonstrate observationally that those that drink more water lose more weight. So there's a lot of bodies of evidence that collectively say drink more water. But if you're sedentary, drinking water might be a quick way to burn like 23 calories for every 500 milliliters, right? Sounds crazy and granular, but that's what the literature suggests. Number 12, fidgeting burns lots of calories. Lots of calories. I can't remember the study right offhand, but essentially going from lying down to sitting was only a small amount of caloric burn increase. But going from sitting to fidgeting while sitting was a huge increase. Just like going from sitting to standing does not burn a ton more calories. Standing to standing and fidgeting burns a heck of a lot more calories. It's all that non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's why we want to keep our calories high enough to actually move and use our body so we burn calories in a slightly different way than just being like cold and fragile and barely moving. Number 13, do not chase ketones, chase results. If you're after the metabolic benefit of ketones itself, sure, measure. But a lot of times I wouldn't even bother measuring. Measure every couple of days or something and just see where you're at. If you're following the protocol, your carbs are low and you're exercising, you're creating enough, period. Number 14, fiber is your friend. Fiber is not going to be problematic any way you spin it. Butyrate, which is created by the gut microbiome from fiber, is very molecularly similar, only one hydroxy group off from beta-hydroxybutyrate, which is the ketone that we're all after. You can see how butyrate might be so eerily similar to beta-hydroxybutyrate that maybe it's beneficial. I noticed I had more energy when I ate fiber. I noticed I had more strength. I noticed I lost more fat when I increased my fiber. A, because the benefit there mechanically and molecularly, but B, I probably just ate a lot less. Trust me, even though people are out there saying, hey, carnivore is good, do this, I get that. I appreciate that. Carnivore is a different ballgame that does not need fiber. But if you are doing traditional low carb or keto and you're having carbs here and there and you're having veggies, you're getting enough fiber to where you need to go all the way. It's in that gray area that it becomes problematic. Number 15, lean meats for fat loss. That doesn't mean don't enjoy a ribeye or a tomahawk steak. I mean, for crying out loud, go for it. But generally speaking, don't just select higher fat meats because you're on keto. The lower fat meats are going to be lower calorie. They're also going to allow you to control your fat intake and control the saturated fat intake, which in the future could be problematic if it ends up eclipsing the other fats that you would get in otherwise. Trust me, I eat a lot of lean chicken, lean turkey, lean fish, tuna, lean meat, lean red meat, eggs, egg whites. I really keep my meats and my proteins as lean as I can, and then I enjoy a nice fatty cut of steak or a juicy fatty burger every now and then. Number 16, bigger breakfasts, especially on keto, even though it's hard. We metabolize better and have higher thermogenesis in the morning. Trust me, if you're not fasting, eat a bigger breakfast. Even if you are fasting, your first breakfast should be pretty big, with the exception of how you break your fast, but that's a story for a different day. Trust me, you'll eat less, you'll feel better. Number 17 is a hot tip I learned way too late in the game for me. Wish I knew it earlier. I used to force lunch because I was supposed to do it. I would eat breakfast, and then I wouldn't be that hungry for lunch, but I'd eat anyway, and then I'd eat dinner. Skip lunch. You can do a midday fast. Eat a big breakfast, go all the way, skip lunch. If you're doing keto, you're probably not that hungry, and then just eat a moderate-sized dinner. Trust me, it's huge. Not only do your calories get lower, but you might find you have a lot of energy. The breakfast is the meal that gets you that energy and that gusto. Those midday meals tend to slump you, so try skipping lunch now and then. Number 18 is a very important one. If you're going to have carbohydrates, have them during your workout. This has made many of my lists before, but it's extra important on keto because this is your time to have carbs and not have them affect your ketosis. This is your time to have carbs specifically during a workout that could give you additional energy and anaerobic power and explosiveness that you need to have the cascading effects later on. Use this time. I eat watermelon even when I'm on keto during my workout. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel. I'll see you tomorrow.